What is up, everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the 3&D here on the Empty the Bench Podcast Network. Make sure you hit subscribe below and follow our socials at the 3&D ETB and at ETB Network. On tonight's episode, we got a jam-packed slate for you as we missed the last couple of weeks, but we got the OG Anunoby trade, how that's been going for the Knicks, and my recap of that. Golden State Warriors are going to be getting Draymond Green back and losing Chris Paul in the making. So we'll talk about that. A couple more moves in the Pac-12 that should be sending the conference into the deceased next season as their final two teams are officially leaving. More AP top 25 stuff, the Lakers continuing to fall, top college games of the week, and of course, we round things off with the NBA power rankings. So I hope everybody's been doing well. The holidays have been jam-packed with some good basketball. We've been having a lot of NBA bouts throughout it, with a lot of really good games in the NBA, and a lot of college basketball too has been going down. We've been seeing the final, the wrap up of the non-conference play, and conference play is now just beginning in all the top conferences. So it's starting to get to the thick of things now in college basketball. So we'll be giving you plenty more of that content throughout our weekly episodes for sure. But in tonight's episode, we're going to lead things off with the OG Anunoby trade. So this happened a week ago, but we haven't recapped it yet on the show. So OG Anunoby has been finally traded to from the Toronto Raptors. There's been talks for, it seems, years now that the Knicks have been interested in OG Anunoby. And he finally was dealt. The New York Knicks acquired OG Anunoby, forward Precious Achiuwa, and guard Malachi Flynn from the Toronto Raptors in exchange for guard RJ Barrett, guard Emmanuel Quickley, and Detroit's 2024 second-round pick. So very interesting trade. The Knicks were able to, RJ Barrett, as a Knicks fan, this is year 5 of RJ. And we just gave him that big extension. And to be honest with you, he's not going to be the player that we hoped he was going to be. We were really hoping that he was going to be a 2 or 3 option. He's really not that kind of guy. So, honestly, I think that getting rid of his contract was very good. The Emmanuel Quickley trade was something that I think kind of hurt. Quickley is becoming one of the better bench players in the NBA. He's going to get full-time role now as the starting point guard for the Toronto Raptors, and I think that's going to be great for them. I think that they're going to get an all-star caliber player. He's turning into a great player, but the problem with him on the Knicks was there was no room to play him. We had Jalen Brunson, re-signed Josh Hart, brought in Dante DiVincenzo, got Quentin Grimes. There was no avenue for him to be a ball-dominant player, especially with Julius Randle still on the team and all those guys, and with RJ Barrett on the team. There was no avenue for him to kind of take over and become the three-point sniper that he is. So I'm glad to see it. I'm glad to see that they moved on, and they didn't have to give up a first-round pick for it. They only gave up a second-round pick for it. And the Knicks ended up getting back OG Anunoby, who is a tremendous 3&D type of guy, one of the better defenders in the NBA, and in a lot of regards, one of the better up-and-coming players in the NBA. And they also got 2 decent bench pieces. Precious Achiuwa is a good off-the-bench rebounder, and Malachi Flynn is more of a depth piece as a point guard. So I think both teams ended up doing really well with this trade, to be honest with you. The Knicks are now 3-0 since making this trade. They won again last night against the Washington Wizards after destroying the Philadelphia 76ers. So they've been undefeated in the OG Anunoby era. And the Raptors have also been doing well. Emmanuel Quickley has been playing great. I already see some Toronto Raptors fans getting frustrated with RJ Barrett. That's something that probably will not go away. I'm interested to see what this leads to too. You're shedding RJ Barrett's contract. Anunoby will be a free agent after this year and is going to be interested in possibly even taking a salary decrease to re-sign with the Knicks. That's what his agents kind of came out and said. So you should be able to wrap him up, and then you could also end up looking for another star player. I don't think the Knicks are quite done yet. I don't think that they're going to be trading for a star this season. I really don't see a Zach LaVine, Donovan Mitchell, Joel Embiid, whoever it is, trade happening during this season for the Knicks. But a trade that I think could really go down is a Malcolm Brogdon trade. He's sitting on the Trailblazers right now. They're 100% going to try to deal him at the deadline. You give up Evan Fournier, who doesn't play and could match the salary, and give them a first-round pick. You might be able to get Malcolm Brogdon, and I think that would be a really good trade. Give them a legitimate backup combo guard, and that would be a really good move. But both teams did very well in this trade, so I'm very pleased by it. And OG Anunoby is now a New York Knick after a while. And some more news coming out of the Golden State Warriors. Golden State will bring back Draymond Green from his suspension. He's been suspended for about a month now after all of the technical fouls and ejections that he's been getting at the beginning of the season, and swinging at Jusuf Nurkic, which was his most recent offense that caused him to get counseling, whatever that's supposed to mean. But the Warriors are set to bring him back, but they also lost Chris Paul in the process. He injured his knee, and he's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks now. And this is a blow that hurts the Warriors even further. The Warriors have not had a great year this year. They're sitting at 17-18 right now. They're sitting as the 10th seed in the Western Conference. Steph Curry has had a great year, but Klay Thompson has not looked like himself. They've been obviously the Jonathan Kuminga stuff that came out. He's been frustrated with his playing time. Steve Kerr has also come out and has been a little frustrated that went public. Moses Moody as well as frustrated with his playing time. So there's a lot of issues right now in the Golden State locker room. And some news came out today that regardless of their record, they're most likely not going to be sellers at the deadline. They're going to wait for Draymond to come back. They're going to wait for Chris Paul to get healthy and see if they can compete. And if they end up having a flunker this season, then a lot of difficult moves are going to have to be made this offseason. You're going to see this team start to get broken up. Regardless of what they want to say, it's difficult for me to imagine that the Draymond era in Golden State is going to continue after this season. The only thing that might keep him there is that 4-year, $100 million contract that he signed this offseason that a lot of teams are not going to want to take on. They may have to eat a lot of that money, but I feel like Golden State might very well move on from him. He's kind of run his course. He was a great player and did everything that the rest of the team didn't do throughout the season. I think Andrew Wiggins might be gone too. I think they're going to move on from a lot of guys. Klay Thompson could potentially be gone. Chris Paul could potentially be gone. I think anybody not named Steph Curry could potentially be gone this offseason if they end up finishing, at like a 39-43 record and get knocked out in the play-in round or something like that, or miss the play-in. If they end up getting fully healthy and they put some stuff together and maybe jump into a 5 or 6 seed, things could be different. So it's definitely a trial and error right now for the Golden State Warriors, but they will be bringing Draymond Green back, and they will be losing Chris Paul for the foreseeable future. And jumping over from that, we have some Los Angeles Lakers news. The Lakers continue to fall. So some more mainstream NBA teams that have been on a complete fall. The Los Angeles Lakers have been awful right now. They're on a 4-game losing streak currently. They're currently sitting at 17-19 on the season. They've lost 4 straight, and they've lost 9 of their last 11. They've just been terrible. They have not played good. LeBron has had a good season in his age 39 season. His numbers are a little bit down from his career numbers, but again, he's still playing great for a 39-year-old. He's also been having some injury issues. Anthony Davis has put up some good numbers, but again, some injury issues. But besides those two, they have not been getting the depth. This offseason, they went out of their way. They ended up making it all the way to Western Conference Finals last year after acquiring D'Angelo Russell at the deadline. And all those guys, Austin Reeves broke out, and they made it a fact that these guys led them to the Western Conference. So we're going to re-sign these guys and we're going to run it back this year. And it hasn't been good. D'Angelo Russell has not been good this season. He got relegated to the bench. He's only averaging 14.8 points. Austin Reeves has had a good season. He's been averaging 15.4 points, but the other guys they brought in, Christian Wood has not been great. Taurean Prince has not been great. They just overall have not had a great team. And Darvin Ham too is on the hot seat. in just his second year as head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. And it's crazy how it seemed like, LeBron has been on the Lakers now since 2018. He's been on the Lakers for 6 years. And it seems like every single season, Lakers fans go into the season saying we won the offseason. And by the midpoint of the year, they're on their knees begging Rob Pelinka to make some moves so that they can compete. Like this has happened practically every season that LeBron has been there. And I am very critical of LeBron, all that kind of stuff. I think that it does show something. I'm not going to go too much into, this is a LeBron led team, so of course it's going to happen, but it's pretty bad when you let one player basically decide all of your moves. And LeBron's done this his entire career. And the championships that he's won is when he's kind of stayed out of it and when they've made moves to get better pieces that, maybe he didn't think of. But whenever he tries to butt in and say, get this guy, get this guy, get this guy, it doesn't work out. And then he ends up going back on his word and saying, you got to trade these guys and you got to make some moves, all that kind of stuff. I don't know where the Lakers go from here. I really don't. I think they're stuck with the team that they have once again. They keep bringing in these veteran guys and giving them increased roles in hopes that they'll shine alongside LeBron and Anthony Davis, and it's just not the case. Anthony Davis is always hurt. He's a tremendous player when he's playing, but he's always hurt. LeBron is aging. He's towards the end of his career. He's not going to be able to put together an 82-game season for you anymore. So the Lakers are definitely in trouble. And if there was any hope, I went into this season with really no hope that they were going to make a deep playoff run, even though they made it all the way to the Western Conference Finals last year. They got very hot after the trade deadline. They got hot in the second half of the season. That's what kind of led them into becoming a team that was that competitive. But I'm not sold on the Los Angeles Lakers at all. I think that they're in a lot of trouble, and they're sitting at 17-19 right now, and they're half a game behind the Warriors for the 10 seed in the Western Conference. They just have not looked good, and lost 4 straight. They've lost 9 of their last 11, so they're not sitting well. I don't see any ammunition coming in to help them anytime soon, so they got to figure it out with the stuff they have in house. You spend that much money on the team with those veterans, you got to figure it out. You can't always just jump ship and trade for another guy and all that kind of stuff. I'm not sure who they would even trade for if they come available. So that wraps it up for the Lakers. Warriors and the Lakers are now on a little bit of a free fall. So it'll be interesting to stay tuned and check that out. We'll jump over from the NBA over to some college basketball. Some college basketball news came out this week. Both Washington State and Oregon State are reportedly set to join the WCC in this upcoming season. And this basically is the nail in the coffin of the Pac-12. Washington State, as you remember, we went over the summer, all the teams that decided to leave the Pac-12 starting next season, the 24-25 college basketball season. But Washington State and Oregon State are the final 2 teams that were left in the Pac-12, and they are reportedly going to join the WCC next year. And I'm going to say reportedly because there's nothing, it's not a definite right now. I also read articles where the Pac-12 is kind of implementing a clause or something to force Washington State and Oregon State to stay in the Pac-12 for at least 2 or 3 more seasons. And even if it's just a 2-man conference, which would be really weird if we go into next season and the Pac-12 is 2 teams. But that's what the Pac-12 is trying to fight for. I think Washington State and Oregon State are fighting back, saying everybody else left, we should be able to leave too. And then this report came out that they're set to join the WCC. They're trying to join the WCC, which the WCC, BYU just left, but that's Gonzaga, Santa Clara, St. Mary's, all those schools on the West Coast. Earlier in the summer, I had said that I expect if Washington State and Oregon State were going to leave, I expect them to either probably go to Mountain West or the WCC. And the WCC is the way that they're going to try to go. So just looking back over things, though, Pac-12 right now, this season is full of 12 teams. All 12 teams are still there, but heading into next season, the big Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah are all set to join the Big 12. UCLA, Oregon, USC, and Washington are all set to join the Big 10. California and Stanford are set to join the ACC, which once again is really weird having two California schools in the Atlantic Coast Conference. It's going to be an interesting one. And now Washington State and Oregon State are reportedly going to join the WCC. So that's all 12 teams. They're all set to join the Big 12, Big 10, ACC, and the WCC next year. So this is going to be interesting to see, kind of keep an eye on if the Pac-12 jumps in and, forces the Washington State and Oregon State to kind of stick around. I'm not sure, what basis and stuff they'd be able to do that on, but that'll definitely be interesting to see. So jumping over from that, this week's AP Top 25 came out. So obviously by the time this episode airs, there's going to be a brand new AP Top 25. But heading into this upcoming week, the predictions seem relatively similar. Purdue is at number 1 this week, Kansas at 2, Houston at 3, and UConn at 4. All of them all won this week, so the 1, 2, 3, and 4 will probably all stay the same heading into next week. Some interesting mashups, though. There was 3 undefeated teams going into this week. Number 3 ranked Houston, number 19 James Madison, and number 22 Ole Miss. James Madison just lost to Southern Miss yesterday, and that's a huge loss. And that's a loss that probably kicks them out of the top 25. James Madison has been ranked since week 2 of the college basketball season. And that was their first loss of the season. They're 13-1 now. But James Madison did not have a very tough schedule. They beat Michigan State. That was their only real big win when Michigan State was ranked. That's what kind of got them into the top 25. But they practically had to stay undefeated to stay in the top 25 for the entire season. I would be shocked if they stay in the top 25 this week. I think they're ranked 19 right now this week. I would assume that they're going to fall out of it. And Ole Miss as well. Ole Miss jumped into the top 25 2 weeks ago because they were undefeated, and they ended up losing yesterday. So they're ranked at 22. They still play in a great conference. They still play in the SEC, so they're 13-1 right now. And so they might still be able to hold on and stay in the top 25, but they're going to fall a couple of spots, probably to 24 or 25. Providence is at 25 this week, and they're definitely going to fall out, especially after losing Bryce Hopkins. But Houston is ranked number 3 in the country, and they keep rolling. They're the only undefeated team left now. They're 14-0. Obviously, they're in the Big 12 now. They're not in the American Conference anymore, so they're starting Big 12 play this week. So we'll see how they get adjusted to that conference. But they're 14-0 headed into it, and they'll probably remain at number 3. Some interesting falls, too. Florida Atlantic, after losing to Florida Gulf Coast, fell 10 spots from number 7 in the country to number 17. And they also lost to Bryant. So that's another one that might kick Florida Atlantic out of the top 25. Gonzaga also fell 11 spots after losing to Purdue. Kind of an interesting one. That losing to the number 1 team in the country makes you fall that far, but Gonzaga fell all the way to 24 this week. They probably will still remain in the top 25 since they didn't lose again. And then some of the surprises in this week's top 25. Oklahoma is now ranked at number 11. BYU is ranked at 12, and Colorado State is ranked at 13. So those are 3 schools that nobody expected much out of. BYU, this is their first year in the Big 12. They jumped from the WCC to the Big 12, and they're heading into conference play, ranked 12th in the country. Oklahoma, nobody really had any high hopes for Oklahoma. They were supposed to be at the bottom of the SEC this season, and they've ended up doing fantastic. Porter Moser has put together a pretty solid squad over there. So those are the AP Top 25 for this week. A brand new one will come out by the time this episode airs anyway, but these are, my predictions heading into the top week. I don't think that the top 5 is really going to change very much. Purdue at 1, Kansas at 2, Houston at 3, and UConn at 4 is pretty much, I would think, is going to stay still. Maybe Houston leapfrogs Kansas to become number 2 since they're still undefeated. That's a potential that could happen, but we'll end up seeing about that. So jumping over from that, we got a brand new segment that we're going to bring you guys this week: contenders or pretenders. So I got two contenders and two pretenders in the college basketball world right now that after watching games the last couple of weeks, it's become apparent to me that a couple of teams kind of stand out as it may be a little bit foolish. It really can end up fooling you if you look at their record, if you look at their rankings, all that kind of stuff. So the first pretender I have is Illinois. Um, I liked Illinois' team going into the year, but Terrence Shannon Jr. is now currently out. And he's going to be out indefinitely after getting suspended. He's got a lot of off the court issues that we won't get into. But without Terrence Shannon, this Illinois team is in a lot of trouble. They're ranked 9th in the country this week. They're definitely going to fall. And besides Shannon, they have not gotten too much help on the offensive end. Marcus Domask has averaged 14.1 points. Quincy Guerrier, who is a transfer, is averaging 11.5 and 7.6 rebounds. But there are other guys, Dane Danger, Luke Good, all have been putting up weak numbers. This team has not really they were not able to hang with Purdue at all without Terrence Shannon on the team. They're definitely a pretender. So they're ranked 9th in the country right now. I think they're going to fall. And they might eventually fall completely out of the top 25 too if they don't watch out. And another one that a lot of people are going to think is crazy. I got the Purdue Boilermakers as a pretender. Number 1 ranked team in the country. I'm not sold on them. I'm not sold on them at all. I think they have a good squad. I like Fletcher Lawyer and I like Braden Smith. Zach Edey, I'm not a huge fan of, but you can't deny the amount of the numbers he puts up and his productivity, especially as being a 7'4" giant that nobody can practically guard. They're 14-1 right now, and they're 3-1 in conference play. Their one loss coming to Northwestern back in the beginning of December in overtime, but they ended up beating Illinois this past week. They beat Maryland, and they've had some other big wins too. They've beaten Gonzaga, they've beaten Tennessee, Marquette, and Arizona. So they've had 4 top 11 wins, 5 actually, including Illinois now. So it's a little bit of a bold take for me to say that they're pretenders. I think there's a lot better teams in the country. I'm not completely sold on them yet. I really am not. I think Braden Smith is a really good player. He's averaging 13 points. He's averaging 6.7 assists, 5.5 rebounds. He's doing a lot for them. And Fletcher Lawyer, also a great player. Zach Edey averaging 22.3 points, 10.6 rebounds, 2.3 blocks after winning National Player of the Year last year. But I'm just not sold on them. I think that Houston has an all-around better team. I think that UConn, if fully healthy, has an all-around better team. And I think Kansas, too. I think if Kansas is fully healthy, they have an all-around better team. But I say Purdue is a pretender because I don't think that they're number 1 in the country. I don't think they're the best team in the country, fully healthy. I think that there's a few others that are a little bit better. And then a couple of contenders, Oklahoma Sooners. Oklahoma has been amazing so far this year, and everybody counted them out. They were not supposed to do well at all this season, especially in the first year since joining the Big 12. They were not supposed to do a ton, but Otega Oweh has been great. Porter Moser is putting together a very, very good squad with Oklahoma. They've been doing well. They've beaten up on some good teams too. They beat Iowa State, they've beaten USC, and they beat Arkansas, which were all USC and Arkansas were preseason top 25 teams. Their one loss came to UNC, but I think as we see more Big 12 play come on, I think that they're going to get a little bit better. I like what I've seen about them. They don't have one star player. They're a good overall unit, I think. That's why I put them as a contender. And Kentucky Wildcats I got as my last contender. So they got off to a little bit of a rough start. They have 5 freshmen, DJ Wagner, Justin Edwards, Aaron Bradshaw, Reed Shepard, and I'm missing one other one, Rob Dillingham. They've got a very young team, but they also have Trey Mitchell, who was transferred from West Virginia, and they have Antonio Reeves too. They have a lot of good players, and I think the freshmen are starting to come into their own. And they had a huge win against Florida yesterday, as being they were ranked sixth in the country, I believe, this week. In the top 25, and they were underdogs at Florida, who's unranked. Just to show you how much Florida has kind of had their number, especially at home, and Kentucky was able to go in there and get a big win. So that kind of put it over the top for me. I think that Kentucky is a tough team. I think that this team is well coached, and Calipari has not put together very good teams over the last couple of years. So he needs a team like this badly to start performing big time and put up some numbers for the Kentucky Wildcats. So those are my pretenders and contenders. We'll be jumping back and forth from this segment throughout the season as more and more come up and go in more detail. And jumping over from there, we'll be going over some of the top college games of the week. Heading into this week, the week of Monday, January 8th. There's a decent amount of good games that are going to kick off. Nothing going down on Monday, but the first game, we have number 3 Houston at Iowa State Tuesday at 7 o'clock on ESPN. So this is a Big 12 showdown in conference play. Houston is now 14-0, as we were saying before. They're 1-0 in conference play. They don't have any ranked wins so far this season, so they're very high up. But the reason why they're not number 1 in the country is because they haven't beaten any ranked teams. They haven't played any ranked teams yet. And Iowa State's not a ranked team either, so this wouldn't be a ranked win either. But they're just starting Big 12 play. Obviously, Houston used to be in the American Conference. This is their first year in the Big 12, so they're going to get more into depth in Big 12 play. So we'll see if they're able to hold on to their tough start. LJ Cryer has been their leading scorer, the transfer from Baylor, averaging 17.1 points. And then Emmanuel Sharp has also been good, averaging 13.4 points and 1.6 steals. Then Iowa State's 11-3. They have not played a Big 12 game yet. They lost to Oklahoma on Saturday, and they also lost to Texas A&M earlier in the season. So Iowa State, they're a bit up and down, but the main reason why I kind of put this game on the watch list is because I'm interested to see any Houston game in the Big 12, especially an away game, and see how they play against this kind of competition that they haven't had to play against much recently. Then on that, we have the same exact time. We have number 20 Texas at Cincinnati. Cincinnati is a brand new team to the Big 12 as well this year. And this game's going down Tuesday at 7 o'clock on ESPN Plus. Texas ranked 20th in the country right now. They're 11-3, started the season 0-1 in conference play. Their one loss came to Texas Tech on Saturday. That was a bad loss. So they'll probably be either lower than 20 or unranked this week heading into the week. So this could be an unranked and might end up being an unranked game. They have also lost to a couple of other good teams, Marquette and UConn. Max A. Smith has done great, averaging 17.2 points. Tyrese Hunter averaging 13.2 and 4.4 assists. And Dylan Mitchell averaging 11.4 points and 9.4 rebounds, really breaking out in his sophomore season after being one of the top recruits as a freshman last year, doing a little decently, testing the NBA draft wires. He decided to come back, and he's doing great in the sophomore season. And then on Cincinnati's side, Cincinnati's been off to a good start. They were not really projected to do much this year, but they're 12-2 to start the season, 1-0 in Big 12 play. They beat BYU on Saturday, which was a huge win. That's a win right there that could get them some top 25 votes this week. They might be able to sneak into the top 25. Their 2 losses came to Xavier and Dayton. Those are not terrible losses. Xavier has been pretty tough to start the season, and Dayton's been one of the better teams in the entire country, honestly. Throughout the beginning of the season, they've been off to a great start, and they play in the A-10. Victor Larkin has been their one-star player, averaging 13.9 points and 8.4 rebounds. So that's going down Tuesday night at 7 o'clock. Then Tuesday night at 9 o'clock, we got number 12 BYU at number 18 Baylor. So this is also a Big 12 showdown. BYU playing in their second game of their Big 12 schedule. BYU off to a 12-2 start. They're 0-1 in conference play now after losing to Cincinnati on Saturday, so they're ranked 12th in the country right now. They're definitely going to fall a bit heading into next week. They'll probably fall into the late teens or so. They'll fall back a few spots. But they've also beat their one big win was beating San Diego State earlier in the season when San Diego State was ranked high. Jackson Robinson has been their one-star player, averaging 15.2 points. He's been getting some NBA attention as well with how well he's been playing for BYU. And then Baylor, on the other hand, ranked 18th in the country. They're 12-2 on the season. They're 1-0 in Big 12 play. They beat Oklahoma State this past weekend to start off their Big 12 schedule. So they're off to a 1-0 start. This is going to be a tough one for BYU. BYU could very, very well start the season 0-2 in their Big 12 schedule because Baylor is a tough team. Baylor is always going to be a tough out, even though they're ranked a little higher than Baylor. Baylor might be ranked higher than them this week, though, after beating Oklahoma State and BYU losing to Cincinnati. They got a big 3-2 over there. Jacoby Walter, who is going to be a potential lottery pick in this upcoming NBA draft as a freshman, averaging 15.3 points. Transfer Ray J. Dennis has been a great playmaker, averaging 14.2 points, 6.2 assists. And Yves Misi, who's been a tremendous freshman that they brought in, big man, averaging 10.8 points and 6.7 rebounds. So I like Baylor a lot in this game. It's at Baylor too, but this is going to be an interesting one. It's going to be a big test for BYU. I mean, not too many people expected a lot out of BYU this season because they jumped from the WCC to the Big 12. They've been off to one heck of a start. That's why they got ranked so high. But as Big 12 conference play begins, their true color is going to start to show. So you might see BYU starting to fall off the map a little bit. And then Wednesday at 7 o'clock, we got number 5 Tennessee at Mississippi State on the SEC network. So this is an SEC showdown. Tennessee is ranked 5th in the country this week. They're 11-3, 1-0 in conference play. They beat Ole Miss this week, so that's a big win, a top 25 win right there. Their 3 losses have come to 3 of the best teams in the country: Purdue, Kansas, and North Carolina. So they're a little bit of a questionable one. Dalton Knecht has been their leading scorer, transfer from Northern Colorado, averaging 15.1 points, and Josiah Jordan-James has been averaging 11-7, also having a great season for them. But Tennessee is a little bit of an interesting one. Mississippi State, on the other hand, is also 11-3, but they're 0-1 in conference play to start. They lost to South Carolina this past weekend. Josh Hubbard's been their main scorer, 14.4 points. This is going to be an interesting game just because Tennessee is not somebody I'm completely sold on yet. They haven't been able to beat the good teams. I think their win against Ole Miss was huge. And they need to get back on track. Like a win at Mississippi State, even if Mississippi State is unranked this week, which they will be, that's still a very good win. So I think that this is kind of something that Tennessee needs to kind of help their resume a little bit more. They're ranked 5 right now in the top 25. They'll probably be ranked 5 going into next week because I don't think any of the top 4 are going to move at all. And then Wednesday at 9 o'clock, we got number 21 Wisconsin at Ohio State on the Big Ten network. So this is a Big Ten showdown here. Wisconsin has been fantastic this year. They jumped into the rankings, but they fell all the way to 21. They're 11-3 on the season, but they're 3-0 now in Big Ten play. They beat Michigan State, who was supposed to be a preseason top 5 team, Iowa and Nebraska. Iowa has not been great this year, but Nebraska's actually had a fantastic season. And their 3 losses have come to Arizona, Tennessee, and Providence, all teams that were ranked this week. But they've also beaten ranked number 3 ranked Marquette earlier in the year and number 24 ranked Virginia. So Wisconsin's got a very interesting resume. That's why they're ranked 21 at 11-3, and they're 3-0 now in Big Ten play. They've beaten some very good teams. They've lost to some very good teams several times, but they haven't had a bad loss yet. Their 3 losses, Providence might be their worst loss, but besides that, they haven't really had too many bad losses. AJ Storr has been fantastic, the transfer from St. John's, and Tyler Wall has also been great for them. And then Ohio State, on the other hand, has not been ranked at all this season. They're 12-3. They're 2-2 in Big Ten play. Their Big Ten opponents haven't been that great. They beat Minnesota and Rutgers, and they lost to Penn State and Indiana, 4 teams that are not very competitive this year. So that's kind of why they haven't been ranked. And those losses, a loss to Penn State is not a good loss for Ohio State's resume. A loss to Indiana is not that bad. Indiana's like decent, but they haven't been amazing. Bruce Thornton, though, has been their leading scorer with 16.9 points a game. And then jumping over to some SEC, we got Florida at number 22, Ole Miss, Wednesday night at 9 o'clock. This could be an unranked game on the SEC network because since Ole Miss lost, they might end up falling out of the top 25. But Florida is 10-4 now on the season, 0-1 in conference play. They lost to Kentucky on Saturday. Walter Clayton has been, for the transfer from Iona, has been their star player at 15.7 points. Florida has been decent this year. And then Ole Miss was kind of the talk of college basketball. They were undefeated heading into this week. They just lost to Tennessee on Saturday, so they're now 13-1. They're 0-1 in SEC play. This is going to be a big game for Ole Miss to have. This is going to be a big game for both these teams because both these teams are, kind of close to the top 25, kind of on the outside looking in. And I think these could be good comeback wins for either one of these teams. Especially after they both lost on Saturday, Florida losing at home to Kentucky and Ole Miss losing to Tennessee. Both of these teams are going to be hungry. So this could be a big win for whoever ends up coming away with it. And then also Wednesday night at 9 o'clock on ESPN2, we have number 11 Oklahoma at TCU. So TCU was projected to be one of the top teams in the nation. They haven't been that great this year. Oklahoma, though, is 13-1 on the season. They're 1-0 now in Big 12 play. They beat Iowa State and lost to UNC, but they also beat USC and Arkansas, so they've had some good wins as well. So we went over Oklahoma a little while ago in the contenders and pretenders, but TCU, on the other hand, is 11-3. They're 0-1 now in Big 12 play. TCU, and they lost their one loss coming to Kansas. Their loss in Big 12 play coming to Kansas. They've also lost to Clemson as well. Jameer Nelson Jr. has been one of their better players, transferred from Delaware, averaging 11 points. But Oklahoma at TCU, this is going to be an interesting game. I'm excited to see this. I want to see what TCU is now 0-1 in Big 12 play. I want to see if they can end up competing against a team like Oklahoma. And then Thursday night at 9 o'clock on FS1, we have Michigan State at number 9 Illinois. This game probably should have been a lot better than it is. Michigan State is unranked. They'll be unranked next week. And Illinois is probably going to fall a little bit. They won't be ranked number 9 next week. Michigan State has been one of the biggest disappointments in college basketball this season. They're 9-5 on the year, and they're 1-2 so far in Big Ten play. They lost to Wisconsin and Nebraska, but they beat Penn State, and their one big win was when they beat Baylor earlier in the season when they were ranked at number 6. Michigan State was loaded coming into the season. Tyson Walker is averaging 20.2 points. He's not the problem. AJ Hogarth averaging 11.2 points. But they have several young freshmen, Cohen Carr and Matty Sissoko, who have just not played well. They were big recruits, and they have not done much for Michigan State. And so Michigan State's going to try to bounce back with a shorthanded Illinois. Illinois is 11-3 now on the season. They lost to Purdue, so they're 2-1 now in Big Ten play. They've also beat Florida Atlantic. That was their one big win this year. They're going to be once again without Terrence Shannon Jr., but they'll have Quincy Guerrier averaging 11.5 points, 7.6 rebounds, and Marcus Domask averaging 14.1 points. And then on Saturday, we're jumping over Friday. We'll go to Saturday's games. Saturday at 1 o'clock on Fox, we have St. John's at Creighton. So I had to add the Johnnies in for one of these games. This is going to be a really good game. Two teams that are just outside the top 25 in the nation. St. John's is 11-4 now on the season, 3-1 in the Big East Conference play. They beat Xavier, Butler, and Villanova, which was a huge win on Saturday. And their one loss came to UConn, who is one of the best teams in the nation. So it's not really surprising that they lost that game. But they're 3-1 now in Big East Conference play. Joel Soriano has been one of the best players in the nation this year. Should be a finalist for the Big East Player of the Year if he doesn't end up winning Big East Player of the Year. He's averaging 17.3 points, 10.3 rebounds. Dennis Jenkins, one of the guys that Rick Pitino brought over from Iona, has also been fantastic as their starting point guard, averaging 12.8 points and 5.9 assists. They've also been getting help from Chris Ledlum, Jordan Dingle, RJ Lewis, A bunch of guys have been playing great for St. John's. They looked fantastic against Villanova on Saturday, and that was a huge win for them. So they're going to jump back into the top 25 discussion now. And then Creighton, on the other hand, has been a little bit of a disappointment. They were a preseason top 25 team, but they're 11-4 on the year, and they're 2-2 in Big East play. They beat Georgetown and Providence, but they lost to Villanova and Marquette. They'll be playing DePaul on Tuesday, though, before this game, so they should be 3-2 headed into this game in conference play. Their big three has been very, very good this season, though. Baylor Shireman, averaging 17.9 points, 8.1 rebounds. Trey Alexander, averaging 16.8 and 6.5. And then their big man, Ryan Kalkbrenner, averaging 15.5 points, 7.1 rebounds, and 2.3 blocks. So their big three has been fantastic and stayed healthy. It's everybody else that, they haven't really put much together for Creighton yet this year, but they should be a lot better than they are. And then the final game of the week is probably the best game of the week, too. We got number 11 Oklahoma at number 2 Kansas going down Saturday at 2 o'clock on ESPN+. I think that this is probably the best game of the week. We've been over Oklahoma already, but Kansas, on the other hand, is number 2 in the country. They'll probably be 2 in the country this upcoming week as well. They're 13-1 on the season. They're 1-0 now in Big 12 play. They beat TCU this past week. Their other big wins came against Tennessee, UConn, and Kentucky. So far this season, their one loss has come against Marquette back in the Maui Invitational. Hunter Dickinson has had a tremendous season so far, averaging 19.4 points, 12.4 rebounds. Kevin McCullough, on the other hand, leads the team in scoring with 20.1 points a game. KJ Adams has also been great, averaging 12.6 points and 4.6 rebounds as well. So those are the top college games of the week. Looking forward to a lot of these. Going to be some good matchups, especially with conference play beginning this week. So very interested to see that. And wrapping things up, we'll be going over, as we always do, top 5 NBA power rankings headed into this season, headed into this week of the NBA. So a few things have changed, but not too many changes. First, at number 5, we've got the Denver Nuggets. The Nuggets rejoined my top 25. My top 5 in the power rankings. They were my number 1 for a long time. But they finally rejoined. Nikola Jokic just looked great. They're 25-12 now. 8-2 in their last 10 games. They're starting to play some good basketball again. They kind of fell for a little bit, but now they're 13 games over 500. They're looking very solid again. Jokic is one of the finalists for one of the favorites to win MVP as well. Try to win his 3rd MVP. At number 4, I got the Milwaukee Bucks. The Bucks have hit some highs and hit some lows this season, but right now they're on a high. I think they're 25-11. They're sitting at 2nd place in the Eastern Conference right now. They're 6-4 in their last 10. They're 16-3 at home this season too. They've played a lot of home games, and have played fantastic in those home games. Giannis is playing fantastic. So I got Milwaukee Bucks ranked number 4. Then at number 3, I've got the Oklahoma City Thunder. So the Thunder have been fantastic. They've been getting so much out of their big 3 in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Chet Holmgren, and Josh Giddey. Jalen Williams has added a bunch. Oklahoma State, they just have a very good young core. They're 23-11 right now. They're sitting at 2nd place in the Western Conference. They're 7-3 in their last 10 games. They are on a 2-game losing streak, but they're still ranked number 3 in my book. Then number 2, we got the number 1 team in the Western Conference, the Minnesota Timberwolves. So the Timberwolves, there's no denying what they've been able to do. They're 25-9 now on the season. And I'm very happy for them, honestly. The Timberwolves they've been trying to compete for so long. They've been putting together some good teams over the last several years and just have not been able to figure it out. But Towns is finally staying healthy. Gobert looks like his old self. Anthony Edwards is turning into an all-around stud and possibly a top 10 player in the entire league. They have a great team. They have a really great team. And I'd love to see them compete and finally put together a contender for the first time since the Kevin Garnett era, pretty much. So they're ranked at number 2. And then once again, my number 1 ranked team in the NBA is the Boston Celtics. They're 28-7 now, 8-2 in the last 10 games on a 2-game win streak. They're 17-0 at home. They still haven't lost a game at home yet this season, but they're still ranked at number 1. So we're about like 10 weeks into the NBA season. Every week I've had the Nuggets or the Celtics at my number 1. And I mean, that pretty much goes to show how the season's gone. I think it's pretty clear that the Nuggets were off to a really hot start, and obviously the defending champions. So you got to give them some love where it's due. And then the Celtics have just been great the rest of the way. So very they definitely deserve everything that's come their way. But that'll do it for another episode of the 3 and D. I want to thank everyone for tuning into the Empty the Bench podcast network for another episode. Once again, make sure you like and subscribe to this channel and follow the socials at the 3 and D ETB. We'll be putting out content all week. In case you missed the entire episode, you can always go back and watch it on YouTube. But we'll be putting out the highlights all week, just in case you missed anything. Hope everyone has a great night, and make sure to like and subscribe to Empty the Bench on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Have a good night, everybody.